This is Praveen Kumar, research scholar of EC department, NIT PY. So I'll be here for you, assisting for the lab devices and networks laboratory. So faculty in charge will be Arvind Kane, assistant professor, department of EC. Right. So in this session, so we'll just brush up our knowledge, what we have known in our first year lab course, right? So maybe you'll be knowing about what are all the basic components that are available, right? Like function generator, maybe the CRO, right? Multimeters. Is it right?
Yes,
You
sir.
heard the right. Okay. So I'll be just okay. So I'll be just briefing about all those things in this session. Then from the next session, we will see what to be done and what are the tools. So right, simulation tools. So on which tool we will be doing, right? So that we will see in the next session. So as of now, I will be just briefing what all we know. So okay, right. So these are the list of experiments. So as have you seen the syllabus? Hello.
No, sir.
Oh, okay, no problem. Yeah. So basically, behind these experiments, so our lab will be the device and networks, right? So among these, these experiments, 1, 2, 3, 4. So these 4 experiments will be your based on electronic devices like maybe diodes, your BJTs and FETs. So and remaining will be based on the completely passive elements, right? This verification of theorems, right? So these experiments. So all these will be based on your simple RLC circuits. So verification of your theorems, designing some filters, attenuators, equalizers, etc. And this will be completely studying the characteristics of your basic electronic device, maybe the diode, BJTs, UJTs, and JFETs. Right. So this is the basic structure of your syllabus. Okay. So what are the basic components that we are using in our lab? Right? So basically, the first one is very basic on function generator. So can anyone of you tell me what is the function generator? What is its purpose?
It produces different functions like sine wave, cos wave, and all.
Produce different functions. Functions or any other specific name is it?
Waveforms.
Yeah. Okay. Waveform. So able to see here what are all the waveforms that it can generate? Yes. Is it visible here now?
Yes, sir.
Yes. This is the function generator what we are having in the lab. So this is able to generate basically 3 types of waveforms. So sinusoidal, triangular, and rectangular pulse. So if the duty cycle is 50, then we can say it is a square pulse, right? So if you have seen here, they have written duty cycle, right? So if you are selecting the rectangular waveform, if I vary this duty cycle, then I can vary the pulse width, isn't it? Right? So
yes,
similarly,
sir.
So these are the frequency ranges, right? Up to what frequency I had to generate. Say for example, I want to generate some 1K signal, right? So I think it is not visible. So if you observe here what we are having here, the range. So basically the first is 3, then 30, then 300. So like this. So the range will be in the multiples of 10. Right? So which range we want? So what is the maximum frequency that I have to generate from this function generator? So if you can just select that range, so you'll be getting that frequency, maximum that much frequency you will get. So how can I vary? By using these 2 knobs, Poyer's knob and pi knob. right? So fine is basically like, say for example, I want some 1K. So this fine means the step size is very less actually. Right? So if by using the squares now, let us say I'm varying. So 1K, 2K, 3K like that. So I want exactly 1100, let us say. So then we'll be varying the squares now to set the frequency somewhere around 1100. And if you want to fine tune, if you want to set exactly at 1100, then you can vary this fine up so that the resolution you can fix clear, right? So that is this purpose. Okay. One more thing is DC offset. So have you heard about this term, DC offset? So I think these are the names that you are aware, right? What is squares knob, fine knob, right? So then what is DC offset? Any idea? Yes? Anyone? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So are you aware about what is meant by DC offset?
No, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, no problem. I will explain it. Okay, let us keep it aside. We will see the next. So this new is amplitude now. So I hope you know what is meant by amplitude. Can anyone define? See, no need to have exact definition. What you know, right? Amplitude means
So the power of the waveform,
power.
The maximum value
maximum.
of the waveform.
Yeah. Can I say it is the peak value of a
Yes, sir.
signal? Yes. Can I say like that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let us say I'm having a sinusoidal signal, something like this, right? So this is my peak. This is the positive peak, and this is the negative peak. So this value, what I'm calling it as amplitude. Yes or no? Right? If I take only this one, we can say what we can say is something like peak voltage. Let us say VP, right? Peak voltage. If I take from here to here, then we'll call it as a peak to peak voltage, right? Okay. So now see here. Right. So if you can see here, this amplitude, what it is indicating, either peak to peak or peak. Are you able to see this one?
Peak to peak, sir.
Yeah, peak to peak. So that means if you vary that amplitude knob there, the magnitude what you are getting, that will be peak to peak. Say some example, if I am setting the signal strength, that amplitude as 10 volt means, so that 10 volt is peak to peak, right? It's not like peak. So that we have to see in the function generator, right? It is not like all the function generators will give peak to peak, right? So that we have to see. So what is the value that it is showing? Either it is showing for peak to peak value or peak value. So that we have to know, right? That is one more thing we need to observe. So another one, frequency, right? So this already we know. So it will be displayed in the terms of hertz. But the thing what we have to know is what is the range that we have selected. So based on that only, it will display the number, and the decimal point also will be changed accordingly. So whatever the range that you have selected based on that. Right. And one more thing I want to focus is, see, if you vary this amplitude, what we said, this is showing in the volts. And if you see this above, it is mentioned like millivolt. How can you get millivolt? That's the question there. So for that, if you can see here, attenuation. Are you able to see this one? Attenuation?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So if you press these buttons, that strength, signal strength, what you are applying, that will get reduced. Right? If these two are in released mode, then whatever the signal that you are getting, that is the actual one, volt, peak to peak volt. If you press these buttons, then the strength will be in the order of millivolt. Right? So that is the way how you get millivolt. Right. So any other important notes? Okay, this we'll see based on our applications we'll discuss. Right, and yeah, so what is this DC offset that we'll see? Okay, then what is DC then? First we will see DC and AC, then we will discuss what is the DC offset, what is its impact. Right? Can anyone define AC and DC? What you know that you just express. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah. Fine. So, AC, the name itself is saying alternating component. So, whether that alternating value, either it may be following some sinusoidal function, or it may follow some triangular nature, or maybe sawtooth nature, or maybe a pulse kind of wave. But whereas DC is the fixed one, right? Over a time scale, the value doesn't change, the constant. Right? So now we'll see what is this DC offset. So let us say this is my sinusoidal signal that I am generating from the function generator. So let us say this is D and this is V in volt, that amplitude volt, and this reference is 0. Okay. So now if you observe, if you calculate the average, what is the average value of this sinusoidal function? What is this average value? So you can calculate average? Yes?
0, sir.
0. Right. Okay. This you know then. Fine. So let me take another example. So this is my 0 line. Now this is my waveform. Now what is the average?
V peak plus V minimum by 2, sir.
Yeah, fine. This is V peak in positive side and this is V peak in negative side, and that value we are getting as average. Okay, so what happened here in these two waveforms? What we can deduce, what inference we can get from these two waveforms? Yeah, anything. So what you understood that I want to know.
If the value of positive peak and negative peak is 0, then whatever be the waveform will get average voltage at 0, and for rest of the things will get a minimum particular value.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Sir, for the waveforms which have positive peak and negative peak as same value, we'll get V average as 0, and for rest of the waveforms we'll get a particular value, either positive or negative depending upon the value of peak.
Okay, that is one thing. Fine. Any other?
Sir, average is the voltage
Yeah.
at the mean position.
Yeah, average voltage. Fine. Okay, fine. Any other inference? Yeah, okay, no problem. So if you observe here the waveform, it is alternating. This is varying upon a line 0, but here it is varying with an average value of, let us say, some V, right? So now if I draw this waveform, the same sinusoidal signal, now it is get shifted upwards by a value of V. Can we say like this? Yes or no? The same waveform. See, previously the signal, that is alternating component, lies along the line exactly on the x-axis. So 0. Now what is happened? The same sinusoidal waveform gets shifted to upwards by how much amount? Instead of coming on 0, this is varying upon V. Is it right? Can we say like it's also right? So whatever you people said, that is also correct, right? This kind of inference also can be made. Yes sir.
Yes, sir. We can make that.
Yeah. So whatever the thing that you said, that is also right. Okay. So that means what we can say. Can I say simply something like this? I have added a DC component of V to your signal. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
yes, sir. So previously, let us say this is 0. If I add some constant value, let us say some 1 volt, right? So just directly add these values, what we'll get? So here this value is 0. If I add this one, we'll get 1. Similarly, something like that. And these are the points what you will get. Yes or no? Is it right? Sorry, getting this point. Any doubts here? Okay, fine. So that means if a DC component gets added, your signal will shift either to upwards or downwards. How much it is shifting, that is based on the how much DC component that you are adding, right? So whatever we are saying, this DC offset will does this task, right? So if you want any that shifting, then that we can adjust with this DC offset, right? So in general, we will be making all the signals that is alternating over the 0 component. So not on a particular DC. If you want, so just by varying this one, you can see what is the DC offset that is being added to the signal, right? Okay. So
Sir.
this is yes, tell me.
Sir, we can also do this using CRO, right?
But CRO, it is just show how much DC offset is added, but you can't vary the DC offset, right? How much shift you require. CRO is
Can
just
we use CRO to shift vertically and sideways?
yeah. That I will tell you. That I will come to that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So basically, CRO is what it is. That is a display unit, right? So whatever that you are generating from the source, if you feed to the CRO, it will just display as it is. So whatever you are having that DC component and whatever you are having that AC component, entire thing it will display. So for our clear visibility, we will be varying that knobs. So that I will come to there. So there I will explain much more clearly, right? So
Okay.
while generating this waveform, if you want to have this DC shifting, right, shifting the waveform upwards or downwards. So if you want that kind of shifting, then we can vary this DC offset, right? Okay. So this we have already seen what are all the different kind of waveforms that I can generate. So I think this CRO, it can't generate this sawtooth waveform, right? So this CRO, what we have seen in the picture, it will generate sinusoidal or square or rectangular pulse and triangular wave, right? So basically rectangular pulse and square wave pulse both are same just by varying the duty cycle. So that we have already seen one of the knob to control the duty cycle of the waveform. So if you fix it as 50%, then that will be square, otherwise it's will be a rectangular pulse. So then another major device that,
What was the last one, sir?
yeah, sorry.
Waveform. What is
Yeah,
the last one?
yeah, this is an arbitrary waveform. So,
Oh, okay.
sorry, I'm hearing more noise. Yeah, okay. So this is arbitrary waveform. So this kind of waveforms you can't generate from the CRO. CRO is specifically to generate some specific waveforms. What we will be using for testing our circuit, right? So whatever the circuit that we are connecting on the, say for example, breadboard or PCB, whatever it may be. So to test your circuit, you need some signals. So what kind of analysis that you are going to do? Okay? If you apply some sinusoidal signal to it, so in general, where we are using sinusoidal signals, so to observe the frequency responses. So in that case, we will be using sinusoidal signals. Or if you want to observe some transient kind of response, then you will be applying something like square waveform, right? So one more thing what I want to say is, so it is not like about the waveforms that we are generating, but we have to know to test a particular kind of circuit, which waveform need to be generated. So that's also very, very important, right? So if you want to observe some transient response, so have you heard about these terms, transient response, frequency response? Yes? Any idea?
No, sir.
Yeah, okay. So I'll simply explain.
Yeah, that switching on time, switching off time, that one, sir.
Yeah, almost one. But I will explain very simply. So I don't want to go to that much detail mathematics and all. So I will explain very simply. Right? So let us say this is RC section, right? So now I want to see. So what is the basic action of a capacitor?
Store charge.
Yeah, storing the charge. So let us say this is something like 1 microfarad, whatever it may be, whatever it may be the capacitance. So now I want to see how much faster this RC section is going to charge, right? So let us say I have applied an input of something like 5 volt. So what will be the maximum voltage that can we get across the capacitor is 5. So if we apply this kind of DC source, so what will take? Definitely it will take some time. It won't get charged quickly. It will take some time, right? So what is the time that it is taken, right? So this thing I want to know, right? So this what we call it as transient response. And once it is getting fully charged, then this change will be very, very less. So this what we call it as a steady state. So this is a steady state response. So this is a transient response, right? So this is the basic. So now if I want to observe this kind of transients, what is happening? So with what is the peak value that is getting observed at the capacitor? With what time period? So at what time it is getting settled down? So I want to observe all those stuff means. So you need to observe the transient response. So for that, we have to apply a square pulse. Again, the same circuit. So one more application of this RC section is we can use this as a filter. So have you heard about this term, filter? Yes. Okay. Okay. So
Sir, AC filter like that, sir.
Yeah, which one?
Like,
Hmm.
it will take all the AC signal.
Yes. What you said is correct. So, what is basically that filter? So, filter is one which allows the particular AC component, right? So, and rejects the unnecessary frequency components. So that what we'll call it as basically a filter. So this RC section can be used as a filter. Now, I'm interested in what are all the frequencies that it can allow, what are all the frequencies that it will reject. Right? That I want to calculate. So previous case is different. Now here it is different. I want to know which kind of AC component it will allow, which kind of components it will reject. That I want to see. So then in that case, what we are applying? So we will be applying a sinusoidal voltage where we will weigh this frequency. Then obviously output is also here, the same sinusoidal signal, and we'll observe this amplitude, what is happening. If we change the frequency, increase the frequency, what is happening with the amplitude. So if that amplitude keep on reducing means, so that frequency component is being rejected. Right? Say something like this. So this is F and this is your output voltage V0, let us say. So up to a particular frequency it is allowing. After that the signal strength is keep on reducing. So this we can say this is all the frequencies being rejected. These are all allowed. Right? So this kind of stuff I want to see. Then in that case we want to give a sinusoidal signal. So here in this kind of thing we have to give a square pulse. Right? This is the basic thing that we have to know. So whenever we are testing a circuit, we have built the circuit. In both the cases, RC section only. Circuit is same, but what we are intended in, what we want to observe from it. So if you want to observe these kind of responses, we have to give one signal. And if you want to observe this frequency kind of response, we have to give sinusoidal signals. So that is very, very important. Right? So is it clear up to now? Hello?
Sir,
Yeah.
for filter, why can't we give rectangular and all, sir?
Yeah. See, wait. If you observe this rectangular pulse, see, we'll be having this sudden change, right?
Yes, sir.
At this edge. Capacitor will doesn't allow sudden changes. Right? If you observe what will happen, definitely it will take some time to get settled down. Then how can I observe whether it is being that attenuated or allowed? So whatever the voltage that you are giving, it will get simply charged up to that point and it will lie there and it will show that value. So we can't observe that effect. What are all the frequency components that being allowed? So that effect we can't observe if you apply this sort of signal. Right? So for that, we are going for the sinusoidal signal, where what will happen? Capacitor will allow these instantaneous changes. So these are instantaneous change. So for each and every instant, value will be keep on changing. This is allowed. Whereas in capacitor, this change, sudden change is not allowed. Instantaneous changes are allowed. Right? That is the basic property. Yes.
First example also we have capacitor now, sir.
Yeah.
There we are using rectangular. That transient response analysis. There we are using capacitor now, sir.
Yeah.
But
yes.
There we are using rectangular. There no problem with sudden changes are there.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying sudden changes in the sense it won't respond exactly. So if you observe a pulse something like this across the capacitor, you cannot expect the same voltage exactly at that instant. It will take some time to settle down. Right? So with respect to this, I can't see. And one more thing, if you can observe, maybe you might be knowing this thing in your signals and systems. So if you can approximate this square or rectangular pulse. So this can be divided into a number of sinusoidal and cosine signals. So this what we are calling it as a Fourier series. So maybe you have heard about those terms, Fourier series. Have you heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah. So that means if you have a square pulse like this, it is not like a single frequency. You'll be having all those harmonics also. So that is difficult to observe if you directly input this kind of signals. The frequency response we can't observe. All the components will be there. But I want to see each and every component, right? Whether this component is allowed, this component is allowed, whether 10 heads is allowed or not, 10 heads is it is allowing or not, some 100 heads is allowing or not. Individual stuff I want to see, right? So in that case, we'll be applying sinusoidal frequency, where we will be varying the frequency in terms of steps. So some 10, 100, 1K, 2K, 3K, like that we will be keep on increasing. Then we will observe what is happening at the output amplitude. So if it is getting reduced means, so then we can say those frequencies are not allowed to the output. Those are being rejected. So if we are having some appreciable amount of amplitude, then we can say all those are allowed. Those frequency components it will allow. Right. I hope you got the answer.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay then. So the next thing is the CRO. So what is the basic CRO will be having CRT inside, cathode ray tube. Right. So have you came across about the internal architecture about CRO or CRT, whatever it may be? Yes. Okay, so you just go through that. What are the basic blocks that are there in the CRO or CRT? So to display a particular waveform on the screen. Right. Right. So this is the CRO, what it is available in the lab. So basically we'll be having this section is for displaying your signal, right? So okay, this I will come to it in the next slide. I will show you what are all these things. Then we'll see what are the basic knobs that we are using, right? So if you can see here, this bottom section, basically this this CRO is a dual channel CRO. So which means that you can observe 2 channels at a time on the screen. Right? That is dual channel CRO. So this left side part is for channel 1, this right side part is for channel 2. Right. So these are all the knobs which can be used to right. This is something kind of scale which adjusts this volt per division. Say if you observe here this box, so let us say this is 1 division. So that equivalent value, so 1 division corresponds to how much voltage. So this is that scale, right? And similarly, this scale is for channel 2, right? As of course both are same, but this is for channel 1 and this is for channel 2. And this one, this Y position. So previously one of the students have asked, so in CRO also we can vary the DC position. So actually that DC position, you are not giving external that, right? So okay, so what we can say is something like, so this Y position is also introduces some DC component to shift your signal. But here this is for display. Say for example, you are applying 2 signals here and here. You want to see it separately. Right? So then what we'll be doing, you'll be varying this knob so that this one of the waveform will get shifted away. So say for example in this screen, so one of the waveform will be get shifted upwards, and the second channel signal will get shifted some downward. So this is for to display your signals properly. So for that we are using these knobs. So this also will introduce some DC phase shift internally, so that that shift is there, so that you can easily see the waveform separately. But whereas the DC offset, what we have seen in the function generator is, while generating the signal itself, we want the DC component in it. Right? Both are different. Right? In the signal itself, if you want the DC component, so we have to vary this knob. Right? So instead of having the signal on 0, in the signal itself, DC component will be there. But here this is not the case. So here this we are using for that shift to see the signals properly on the screen. Right? I hope you got. So not aware who is the person asked. So I hope you got that answer. Okay? So in the signal itself, if you want the DC shift, you have to vary the DC offset. But here it is for just separating the signals properly, so as to analyze separately. Like so, that thing we can have. And see here, and two more switches are here. One is GD and another one is AC. Is it visible? GD is the ground signal. Another one is AC. Right. Okay. So what will happen? So if you press this ground button, so what will happen means, so you'll get a simple DC line on the exactly on here, this 0 axis. Right? And what is this AC component then? See, you are having AC switch. What will happen if you press the switch? I don't know whether it is visible or not. Right? So if you press this, yeah, okay. So if this switch is in released position, it won't display the DC component of your signal. It will display only the sinusoidal signal, or maybe the rectangular. Sorry, not rectangular. That is your triangular water, maybe the signal that you are applying. So it won't show the DC component. That means if you connect this, feed the signal from function generator via this probe, you will get the signal on this line. Right? But if you want to see what is the DC value that is present in the signal, if you press this button, then you can see the DC shift. Understood? So if the switch is in released position, you will be seeing only the AC component. If you want to see the DC component also in the signal, if you press it, you can see the shift. Right? So, and one more thing, that shift is not by this Y position and Y position too. So that is not that one. But what we are saying about DC offset, that is coming from the source. Right? That shift, if you want to observe, you can just press this button, you can see that DC shift. Right? And one more button, if you can see here, dual. So you'll be having one more switch, that is dual. So if that is in released position, so we'll be able to observe only the one channel. If you want to see both the signals, both the channel signals, you have to press it. Right? So that is one more thing. And okay. So let us see the basic important knobs. And okay, so just here, similar to Y position, there will be one more knob, X position, to vary the signal, shift the signal on horizontal axis. And similarly, how we are using these knobs for fitting the voltage, fitting the signal on the Y axis. Here there will be one more knob to vary that resolution in the X-axis. Right? Basically, this is what we'll call it as times per division, and this is called voltage per division. So these are all the basic knobs that were available. And one more thing they have written here, 30 megahertz. So that means the maximum frequency that you can observe on this CRO is 30 megahertz. Right? So, and there are two more knobs here. I think these are not visible. Those are names. So actually those two are, one is focus, another one is intensity knob. Right? So I hope you know what are the focus and intensity, that meaning you know. So I don't want to stress that, right? Okay.
Sir,
So, yes, go ahead.
sir, can we have a small break, sir? 2 hours continuous a bit hard, sir.
Okay. So up to
Small
what
break.
time the lab is there? 2:30 to 4:30.
4:30.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we? You want break?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then when we will join again?
Okay, sir.
Okay. No. I am asking.
10 minutes, sir.
Yeah. 10
10
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah. Now it's 3:30, 3:40,
Okay, sir.
right?
Oh,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, shall we start now?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, basically, what the CRO is meant for? So, to measure the signal amplitude and time period. Right. So, let us say this is the screen, the CRO screen, what we have seen here. Right. So, let us say this is the screen, and after feeding the signal to the CRO in one of the channel, and the signal is appeared something like this. Right. So now, how can we measure what is the amplitude of the signal and what is the frequency of the signal? Right. So, do you have any idea? Hello.
Sir, can you repeat the question?
So, how to measure the signal amplitude and the time period of the waveform? So, if the signal is fitted like this on the CRO screen, from this, how can I measure the amplitude and how can I measure the time period?
We'll find peak to peak voltage and by 2 will give us amplitude.
Peak to peak voltage by 2. Okay, say for example, if this is the case, can you tell me what is the amplitude?
4 units, sir.
1, 2, 3,
The
4.
resistance of each curve.
Yeah, sorry.
The distance of each curve from the zero origin point.
So let us say this is origin. From you here you are saying about 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 units. Okay. But you are saying this is 4 units. Then what about the exact value? Yeah, what you said is correct. This is 4 units. Then what is the value? Whether it is 10 volt or 20 volt or 40 volt or 4 volt. How can I say? So
Depends on the scale.
yes, yes. So what we have seen here, we have seen this volt per division scale, right? So I had to multiply this factor, how many units it is covered, and the volts per division. So that we need to take. So that scale value into this one. So that will give the amplitude. So let us say this is 4 units. So let us say it is 1 volt. The scale per division is 1 volt. Now it is 4. The scale per division is 2. That is 8. So like that we can measure. Okay. So again, if you observe here, each is divided into some subscale here. That step size is 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and then 1. Right. So, okay. So let us assume so I'm having something signal something like this. So now how can I measure? So this is one box, and here we will be considering a case like this is 0, 1, 2, 1.2, and this is 1.4, right? And one more error what people will be doing, that I want to say. See here, if you can observe, this is exactly meeting this line 1.2. So let us say another signal exactly meeting this 1.4, right? So now what I can write, this number of units that is covered, 1.2 unit and 1.4 unit. Now if it is the case like, so your peak amplitude is somewhere between this 1.2 and 1.4. So in general, what people will be doing, like this is 1.2 and this is 1.4. So let me take the average, right? So maybe something where around 1.25, maybe 1.3, something like that. So I will take that value. But is it guaranteed that whether it is 1.3? say for example, the volt per division is 2, you'll be getting 2.6. So if you take in that way, but if you change that volt per division knob, then in such case, this peak will touch somewhere else exactly. Then if you multiply with that factor, then you won't getting that 2.6 value. So that we need to take care, right? So this kind of error should not be there. So if you are not confident enough, like this peak is not exactly coming on this 1.2 line or 1.4 line, don't take like that is 1.3. Why? Because we cannot assume. So it is lying somewhere between 1.2 to 1.3, sorry, 1.2 and 1.4 unit means you can't take this as average. That is wrong, right? Why? Because here you can assume an infinite number of values. We don't know what is the exact value, right? We cannot assume like 1.3. If you are not sure enough, just increase the scale per division. So then verify where it is exactly coinciding with that calibration scale what they have given. Then you multiply that corresponding factor. Or if you're not completely sure enough, even if it is not getting perfectly sync with that scale, then it is always recommended to take the lower unit. Don't take upper, please take lower. So why? Because we know that signal amplitude is reaching 1.2, but it is not reaching 1.4, right? So that we can't take the upper value. Always it is recommended to take the lower. Why? Because we are not sure what exact value above 1.2, maybe 1.2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, infinite number of values I can assume. So we should not take that kind of values, right? So what we need to take is 1.2. So this is the major error that people will be doing while noting down this amplitudes or maybe time period also, right? If you are not sure enough, just take the lower one. Similarly, in the case of your analog meters also, right? So you'll be having a needle where we'll be having some scale, something like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like this. So here also same thing. If the needle is exactly reached at that point, then you can take. If it is lying somewhere else, so it is not recommended to take, since it is very nearer to this upper scale, I will round up to this one. Or if it is somewhere in the middle, I can take average. So that is not allowed. So why? Because there will be infinite number of values in the tree. So we can't simply assume like that is the average. So that is not always true. That need not to be true, right? Maybe true in some cases, exactly, but it need not to be true in all the cases. So it is not recommended to take that average kind of stuff and all. So it is always recommended to take that lower value. Why? Because that is guaranteed. Right? So that we need to take care. So either it may be using CRO or maybe using analog meters and all. If you are using digital meters, no problem. It will be giving exactly that precision, something like 1.251 volt. So if you are using digital multimeters, no problem. But whenever if you are using analog meters, this is the thing you need to take. Right? Okay. So this is about amplitude. So in similarly, how we can calculate the time period. So we know how to calculate the time period, the basic definition. So the time required to complete one full cycle, right? Or maybe the time between two successive peaks, right? So from here to here, and or from here to here, or maybe here to here. So all these things you can take as a time period, right? So the same thing in CRO also, how we are measuring, right? Measuring from this point to this point, or maybe between positive peaks, or maybe between the negative peaks, right? So how we are doing in the same way. So we'll be counting the number of units that is being covered horizontally. So let us say this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is also 4 units, and then multiply with the time per scale division. So this value. So this is volt per division. This is times per division. So multiply with this scale. Then you will get the time period. So if you want to calculate the frequency, take 1 over the time period, you will get the frequency. Right. So this is a basic thing. So basically in this CRO you will be calculating these two steps, amplitude and the time period. If you want to calculate frequency, just take 1 by that value. Right. So another one of the components that we are using is basically the DC power supply. So, and so here it is named as multiple power supply. So what it means, like it will be, we can have that multiple voltage values we can take, right? Maybe something like one. Here we are having something like 3 channels. If you can observe A, B, and C. So maybe one channel is ranging from 0 to 10 volt, another channel is ranging from 0 to 15 volt, or 0 to 5 volt. So depending upon the range what we require, so that corresponding channel we can select, right? So if you press this button, particular button, that corresponding voltage we can see here in the display, right? And similarly, we'll be having these squares and fine buttons, so to vary it. Okay. And okay, so the same thing what I have explained here. Now, other than this, what are the basic components that we are going to use it in our lab? So basically we'll be using resistors, inductors and capacitors, and some electronic components such as diodes and transistors. Right. So we know what is basically that resistor is. So resist is a kind of device that used to reduce the flow of current or resist the flow of current. Right. So in general, we'll be using this in series to a particular element. Right. Okay, yes, of course, this can be connected in parallel, but depends on the application. If you want to bypass this entire current, you can place it in a parallel to your device, so that entire current will be flowing through the device if you have a less resistance. Or if you want to reduce the current in a particular element, then place the resistor in series with a higher value. So that is the basic thing, right? So I think you are aware of that. So whenever if you are having, so let us say I am having some device here. So I want to reduce the current flowing through it. So then what we'll do, we'll place a resistor in series such that this resistance should be larger. So then we can reduce the current flowing through the device so that your device won't get damaged. Or you can connect, so maybe in some sort of applications, I want to bypass this entire current through the resistor. So if I maintain this resistance as a very less, so most of the current will be flowing through this device and very less currents will be flowing through this device, right? So this is another way. So that depends on our application, right? What we want, whether we want to bypass this entire current through some other circuitry, or we want to reduce the current that is flowing through our actual circuit. So based on that, we'll be connecting this resistor series or parallel, or maybe combination of series and parallel. Right. So then, how to identify the resistance value? So basically, we'll be having color coding. So this is the color coding for a basic 4-band. Like we'll be having 3 colors, and these 3 colors basically represent the value of the resistance, and this represents the tolerance. Right. Okay. So how we are doing it? So here we are having very simple formula. So for the first color, write down that same digit. So each and every color will be having their own digits that we will see. So I think you are aware of color coding, right? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yeah. So okay then. So then just I will finish it quickly. But so you'll be having basically these 4 colors on this resistor. They will be giving. So we will be writing the first and second digit as it is. Then third digit we will be writing in the 10 power. Then the tolerance plus or minus. So while connecting in the circuit, so we are not that much bothered about this 4 digit. So we are interested in this one. Okay. So basically we'll be having 3 resistors. So this is the fixed resistor, and this is variable resistor, and this is the potentiometer. Okay, can anyone tell me what is the difference between variable resistor and potentiometer? Whether both are same, or is there any difference? Yes, Vinny?
There is a difference, sir.
Yeah, what's that? What is the difference?
We can change resistor. We can change resistance in variable resistor.
Yeah, but whereas potentiometer, it won't change.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir, in variable resistor, I think it is based on a particular function. It will change by itself. Whereas in potential,
Sorry, I'm getting more noise. Hello. Yeah, go ahead. Someone
sir,
is answering.
but while in potentiometer, we
what is
have to adjust from externally.
So again, come again. In variable resistor.
In variable resistor, the resistance will be changing as per the algorithm inside it, but in potentiometer, will be changing the voltage from outside. Like will change by hand.
So in potentiometer, the resistance can be same. Is same, and in variable resistor, we change the resistance as per our required.
Okay. Then variable resistance. Then what about variable resistance? Can't we change as per the how much resistance that what we require? Is it not possible? Okay. Okay. See, basically when we'll be using potentiometer. So variable resistance, if you want something like in our circuit, I should have some 100 ohm, 200 ohm, something like that. So we'll be having some controlling mechanism. So based on that, the resistance offered in that particular branch will be varied. Similarly, potentiometer also will be giving the same kind of stuff, but in some other manner. So what is this? Basically this potentiometer. So potentiometer, if you can observe here we are having 3 terminals, right? So so here is redraw. Yes. Okay. So say for example, this is my potentiometer. We'll be having basically 3 terminals, and so let us say this is connected to some other circuit. Let us say this is source, right? Let us say this is some voltage source or something. Okay, so let us say this is another circuitry. So this is our basically our circuit. So let us say this is my source. So let us say voltage source. Say for example, that is my voltage source. Right. So when we'll be using the basically potentiometer, that what I want to focus. Right. So we'll be having basically these three terminals. So I have connected some one terminal here, and or second terminal here, and third terminal to one of the input of the circuit. So now what will happen? See, say for example, if this potentiometer will be having a knob, so if it is one of the extreme position, if it is in one of the extreme position, then what will happen? So whatever the current that is coming from this source, the entire thing will go to the circuit. No, I don't want that entire current. I want to reduce the current, or maybe I want to reduce this potential. I don't want the entire thing to be coming here. So then I can adjust this value so that I can allow the specific amount of current or maybe the specific potential can be applied to the circuit. So just by varying this one, we can vary that the voltage or maybe the current. So based on our connection, what I'm speaking about, right? Based on how we are connecting, so we'll get that kind of effect. So whether what we are intended for, whether we are varying this for a particular voltage or maybe the current, right? This is the thing. So basically the basic purpose is to of variable resistor potentiometer is same, vary the resistance, but how we are using that is that makes the difference, right? So I think you are aware of this the color coding, right? So this is order BB Roy GB, right? So how you are remembering this one? So I will follow this order actually. Basically this is black and
red.
yeah
Very
yes,
good
yeah.
wife.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. BB Roy Great Britain, very good one.
Yeah, okay. So everyone will be having their own coding technique. So but I will follow this one. First is black or brown. So if you see this one, have you seen this one? This you know?
Yes, sir. Good boy.
Is it both are same? If you go from here to here,
Yes, sir.
but what is missing? I is missing. That's
I is
it.
missing, yes, sir.
So this is another kind of way. How can we remember? So just remove this I in VBR, VBGYOR, and brown and black on top of it, then gray and white. Okay, so that is as per your wish how you are remembering. So whichever is okay for you, that you follow. But basically, I will follow this one, right? Okay. So from the order, so from black to white, we'll be having 0 to 9. So whatever may be the order that it is appearing, either maybe first color or second color or third color. So it doesn't matter what is the order that it is appearing, right? So whatever the colors that were there, you just write down first digit and second digit as it is, and third digit you put it in the 10 powers. That's right. So that I think you already know, right? So this is basically 270 ohms. So here the first is red, and the one is violet, and the one is something. Right. So again the same thing. Here it is red, here it is red, and then one is black. So what is this value? So red is for 2, again 2, again what's for black? Yes, so black is for 0, then this value is 22 volts, right? So this is the way how we can calculate the resistance. And one more thing basically we'll be using is the decayed resistance box. So this is basically what we're saying, that variable resistance, right? So you'll be having various ranges from varying from 10s of ohms to mega ohms, right? So another thing is capacitors. Basically, you'll be having two types of capacitors in the lab. So one is electrolytic capacitor. So in electrolytic capacitor, it is easy to find what is the charge that it can store, what is the voltage rating, and what is the capacitance rating, that we can easily find out. So 10 microfarad at 50 volt. So 50 volt is the maximum voltage that you can apply across the capacitor. So 10 microfarad is the capacitance value, right? So this kind of electrolytic capacitors are polarized capacitors. That means we'll be having plus and minus kind of stuff, right? So how we can differentiate which is minus and which is plus? So let us say this is the capacitor. So we'll be having one short lead and one long lead. So based on this, we'll be finding which is plus and which is minus, right? So and the one is ceramic capacitor. So in general, this will be in the order of nanofarad or maybe very few microfarad, not something like 10 microfarad, 20 microfarad, very lesser value, or maybe in the nanofarad, right? So here also we'll be having some coding. So if you observe here, we are having that number as 104. So how to know this equivalent resistance? So write down the first digit, write down the second digit, and third digit will be putting in the power, and this is the 10 power 5 picofarad. So all these ceramic capacitors will be in the picofarads. So effective capacitance value is 10 power 5 picofarads. So that much capacitance it is, right? So the same example what we have shown, 104 and 103, right? So similarly, we'll be having the decade capacitance box. How we are having the decade ratios. Similarly, we'll be having decade capacitance box to vary your capacitance. So similarly, the inductors. So inductors are simply the windings or a particular core, right? So similarly, the decade inductance box, right? So these are all the basic RLC components that we are having in the lab. And another one, so regarding the electronic device components, so one of the part of our syllabus, right? So diodes. So basically we'll be using these three kind of diodes: Zener and PN junction and light emitting diode. So I think you have heard about LEDs, right? Light emitting diodes, so LED displays. So you might have heard that term, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So okay, have you heard about this diode? So I think now you are studying about the diodes and all, right? Yes or no? So I think in one of the course you might be studying about diodes. Yes, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So can anyone brief what is a diode? A simple manner. No need of entire stuff. Just in a simple manner. What's a diode?
It is a semiconductor device, sir, which is doped.
Doped with what?
Impurities.
Okay.
Like one side with trivalent thing and other side with pentavalent thing.
Okay. Any other? Any other thing regarding diode? Yeah, no problem. So what you know, you just say. Yeah, allows current flow only in one direction.
Forward direction, yes.
Yes, correct. Okay, so the PN junction diode, or maybe the simply, how can we define the diode is that allows the current only in one direction. So that's why we are calling these devices as unidirectional devices, or maybe simply the components unidirectional. Right, so which allows current only one way. Right. So then what is opposite to it? Bidirectional. So whatever the components that we have seen R, L, C, so all these are bilateral elements. So they can allow the current flow in both the directions. But whereas here it will allow the current only in one direction. So that's why you are calling it as unidirectional current. Sorry, unidirectional devices, or maybe the components, right? Okay. So basically we'll be studying these characteristics. So what we are saying, these are unidirectional. So how it is behaving then? So what are the characteristics of a basic diode or maybe Zener diode? So we are not seeing for LED. So now syllabus will be having only this in the lab, PN junction and Zener diode. So what is happening if we apply potential to the Zener diode, and what is happening if you apply for a Zener? So actually Zener only 1 N, right? What is happening for Zener, right? Okay. Then one more thing I want to ask. So basically this diode will be having two terminals, anode and cathode. So let us say this is the PN junction diode. How can you identify which terminal is anode and which terminal is cathode? That's very simple thing. So if you can observe here, there is a shading portion. So that portion, the terminal connected to that portion is cathode and another terminal is anode. Right? Similarly in the case of Zener diode also. So wherever that shading portion is there, that is cathode and another one is anode. Right? Okay. And so I want to ask one more question. If you're aware, you can just tell, otherwise no problem. So what is the basic difference between PN junction and Zener diode?
Zener diode only functions in reverse biased conditions, right?
Oh, only functions in reverse bias. It won't function in forward.
Sorry, in reverse breakdown conditions.
Okay, so my question is whether it will operate for forward bias or not. Whether Zener diode can be operated in forward bias or not.
No, sir, I
Yeah.
guess we can.
Sir,
Low-
in PN junction diode, the PN junction allow the current to flow in forward direction, but in Zener diode, the current is allowed to flow in both the direction, that is forward and reverse directions.
Yeah, yes, that's true. So both the diodes will operate in the forward bias as it is. So there is no much difference. You can't observe much difference for both Zener and PN junction diode if we are operating in forward. So the thing where you can observe is in this case of Zener, in the reverse bias, the Zener will get breakdown very quickly so that it is able to operate in the breakdown region also. But whereas PN junction diode, if you want to get breakdown, you have to apply more and more voltage in the reverse bias, right? So if you apply that much stuff, breakdown is secondary. First of all, your diode will get damaged. So in general, we'll be not operating this diode, basic PN junction diode, in the reverse bias. Yes, of course you can operate, but we have to ensure that it is not crossing a particular limit. So in general, if you observe the data sheet, they'll be writing this value, peak inverse voltage. So this rating they'll be giving, or maybe something like reverse voltage, like that also they may write. So if you want, you can check that out. So you have to ensure that that reverse voltage should not cross this rating, right? So whereas in case of Zener diode, there is no problem. Again, in the Zener diode also, they will be writing that voltage as Zener voltage, right? So this is the voltage at which you will be getting breakdown. So, and there are several applications such as voltage regulator and etc. So where this Zener diodes will be playing a role. Okay. And another basic component is the transistor. So I think this also you'll be learning in your things, in your course. So in the lab, we'll be having basically two types of the transistors, PNP and NPN. And again, this NPN, PNP transistors are of different type packages. So if you can observe this pinout NPN transistor, and if you can observe the pinout of this transistor, right? So these are of both different packages. So here we'll be having that kind of metal cap over it, but here it is having something like plastic kind of cap, and one side it is flattened, but here it is cap kind of stuff, right? So these are BC547. So these are BC54 series, and this is BC107, 108 or 109 series, right? These both are NPN transistors only, right? But the maker is different, right? BC1 is for BC547 will be manufactured by some vendor, and BC107 is manufactured by some other person, right? Okay, so remaining stuff and all will be the same. Maybe you can get the difference in the transistor, some transistor parameters that you will be knowing in your courses. So I don't want to go into that part. So basically, that transistor parameters may slightly vary, not in a huge way, right? So this is the basic pinout, how to find the emitter, base, and collector. So this is a symbol, but if you are given with the BC547 transistor or maybe BC548 transistor, whatever it may be, how to find those emitter, base, and collector, right? So as you can see here, the pin ordering. So if you hold this flat transistor such that this flat surface is facing towards you, then start from your right side, emitter, base, collector, right? So just follow one convention, right? So don't follow multiple things. Follow the one convention so that you can easily remember. So this flat surface you have to hold to your side, then emitter, base, collector. And another one, if this is the metal can package, then how can you remember? So for that, they will be having one notch here. So this is notch, if you're able to observe, right? So that is the point for our reference, right? So starting from the notch next to the pin. So if you move in the clockwise direction, so that will be the first one, second one, and third one. So emitter, base, collector. So this is the pin order, right? So all this pin ordering and all, they will be giving by the manufacturers, right? So what is the pin ordering and all? So that also, no need to by heart all the stuff and all. So there in the data sheet, they will be providing what is the package and what are the parameters and what is the pin ordering, so that you can get from the data sheets as well, right? So, but these are the basic things. So each and every time referring to data sheets is not acceptable. but at least you have to know, since these numbers are very few, so you can easily remember, right? From this notch, if you go towards clockwise direction, that is the ordering 1, 2, 3, emitter base, correct, right? So, and one of the basic component that what we are using is the breadboard, right? So whatever all the stuff that we have studied now, so if you want to build a circuit, and if you want to test it, we should have some surface to some platform you should have where you can have the connections of all these elements. Then you can apply the signals, either maybe through function generator or maybe through some constant DC sources, whatever it, right? So for that, we should have some platform, that what we are calling as a breadboard, right? So this is the front view of your so this is the front view of your breadboard, basically. So I think you are aware. Yes or no? Yeah. So basically, we'll be having this kind of arrangement where this entire thing is a single node. So this entire thing can be treated as a single node, if you can see here. Right? All these points are same. Whereas if you go onto the top, horizontal, so up to here, this is one node, and this can be considered as another node. Can be considered as another node. Right? Okay. So what's meant by node? A simple question. What is meant by node? Hello. What is meant by node?
Node, sir.
Yeah, node. NODE.
Something that represents zero amplitude, sir.
Oh, something that represents zero amplitude is node.
Yes, sir.
Is it correct? Okay.
Studying about waves, we learned that the positions of zero amplitudes are called nodes.
No, I'm speaking about with respect to circuit, not with respect to this waveforms that what you are studying. With respect to circuit, what is node? So these are the basic stuff we want to know, right? So node, branch, all these things. Okay, no problem. That we'll see in the next example, right? So, okay, so let us consider a simple circuit. So where 3 resistors are connected in series. So what we will be having basically 2 things you have to know: node and a branch. So branch is one. Say for example, if we have at least one component in a particular line. Say for example, if I take this one, this is a branch. So where at these 2 terminals we have connected a voltage source. This is one branch. And similarly, if you take these 2 points as endpoints, see here, this and this are same. This point and this point is also same, right? So this wire cannot be treated as a branch. So this is simply a wire. Nothing is there. No element is connected, right? This cannot be treated as a branch, but this can be treated as a branch here from this point to this point. So what we are having 3 resistors connected in series. So this is a branch and this is a branch, right? So now see here, this voltage source is connected to a point. So let us say this is point 1, and this point of your resistors. So that is also connected at this point 1, right? So that means at a single point, we are connecting the 2 branches. So this branch 1, and let us say this is branch 2. These 2 are getting connected at a single point, that what we are calling it as a node. But so since these 2 are in series, we cannot call it as a node. If you are having one more branch, something like this, then we'll call this as a node, right? So let us say I'm having one more resistor, maybe something like this. So now I can call this as a node. So that means where the 2 or more branches gets connected, right? This is one branch, this is one branch, and this is another branch, right? Okay, that is node basically.
Sir,
Oh, yeah, yes.
node and junction are same thing, sir.
Node and junction. Yeah, junction also you can say, but the preferable word is node instead of junction. Preferably is node.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, fine. Okay, so if you can see this, how it is getting connected. So we already know all these points corresponding to a same connection. So one resistor, see here, if you take the same circuit, one point of the resistor we have connected, let us say this is, it will be having some reference point. So, and another we are connecting at this point. Next resistance R2 and the second terminal of R1. Again, these 2 are connecting at the same point, right? So second resistor, first terminal, and first resistor, second terminal should be at the same connection point. So likewise, reminder. So this is a basic series connection. Then what about parallel? Very simple. So if you want to connect all these things in parallel, you'll be having one resistor here, another resistance here, and some other resistance here. So all these will be one point, and all these will be another point. So let us say this, all these are in parallel. Since all is sharing the same connection point, right? So then in this case, you can have this parallel connection, something like this, right? So similarly, if you have the both series and parallel, then same thing. Already we have seen how we can connect in parallel. So one resistor here and the same points, and the series we know, right? So let us say we have connected first point here and second point. From there, we need to have these 2 connections, right? So these are all the basic things that I want to show. Actually, all these stuff, you know, what is the breadboard and how you have to give connections and all. So this is nothing new to you. But what I want to share a few things is what are the basic things that we have to know. So that I have shared with you. So especially regarding this point. So how to use the CL. This is the very basic thing, and how to use the function generator. So these 2 are the basic things, right? Most of the people do the mistakes, right? So which knob, when we have to vary, which, say for example, if you want to measure voltage, how we have to measure. If you want to measure time period, how we have to measure it, right? If you want to generate a particular waveform, how to get that waveform from it, right? If you want to have a millivolt range of signal from the function generator, how to get it. So these are the basic stuff that we want to know, right? So that's why I have given more focus on that. So and remaining things, the resistor color coding, so these are and all known to you. So that's why I just brief it what is happening there. And finally, this identification of pins. So actually I might have kept for JFET also. So that is missing. Okay. Anyway, that we will see. If that situation comes, that also we'll see how to identify the JFET pin terminals, as well as one more transistor we are looking for in a is the UJT. So that we'll see. Okay, and anything you want to know? So maybe in the next session we'll see the next week. So anyway, now you cannot have hands-on. You're not here. At least you can do the all our experiments in a simulation tool. Right? I think you are using multi-sim, right, for one of your lab.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see it. So you can use the same multi-sim lab for multi-sim software for our lab also. Or if sir asks us to go for with any other tool, so that also we'll discuss. Okay. So that I will check with sir. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
ఆ దగ్గర పొద్దున వెళ్దాం అని చెప్పు
Hello.
ఫోన్ సైడ్ చెప్పు
Hello. Someone is asking something. I'm not getting that. Yeah. Okay, fine. So in the next week that we'll see. So what is the tool? If you are aware about of multi-sim tool, then it is fine. So I'll quickly give a small demo for one of the experiment. Then you can practice that one. And if sir asks us to go with some other tool, so that also fine, we'll see. Okay, so as of now, anything you want to know? Any other doubts?
No, sir.
Yeah. Okay, shall we wind up this session?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, 1 minute. So who is CR? Yeah, okay, anyone. Let me know the absentees. So I think now 43 members are there. I have logged in 2 devices. That means 41 are present. Now it is 42. Okay. So 3 is there. Okay. So I logged in 2. Okay. Yeah, okay. So just reminding candidates, what are the roll numbers, you can just text me. Or you can mail me also. If you have. Okay. So it's better to mail me. Okay. Don't put SMS. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, then that's fine. Then that's fine. Okay then. So yeah, okay, thanks. Okay, we'll wind up this. Yeah, we'll wind up this session for now. So next week we'll see.